Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 96 of The Captain's Heart. How was the trip? Productive. Ran into an old friend when I landed, but work kept us from catching up. Hopefully next time we're back here, why not just go back down? The ship isn't leaving for another day. Too much to do until then. How was your day? Met someone new. He uses my weight machine. Really? He's no good at fighting, so he prefers that to always ending up on the mat. He needs better partners. Who you're training with is supposed to push you, not just beat you. Do you think it's going to work for him? I don't know. He definitely can't use it the way I do. I might contact medical at some point. Someone there might have an idea if this kind of training can cause him problems. At least supervise, so if a problem is building, they'll know and put a stop to it. If that happens, send him to me. I'll set him up with someone who specializes in training with beginners. She'll be able to build him up until he can take on those trainings at the gym. I'll let him know. Did you visit your family? I didn't have to. They flew to the station and we ate while they cut me up to what the rest of my family has been up to. Met you at the station. Weren't you going to call them to let them know you were on the planet? It slipped my mind among everything I had to deal with. Right, slipped your mind. How are they, you and your siblings? They're all well. Room, he's one of my brothers, got in trouble again for being in public naked. I swear, he's like the quartermaster that way. He seems to love ending up in a cell. Maybe you should introduce them. Is just Billy him in your bed. These two in this same room might bring the entirety of my society crashing down. Come on, two guys who like fucking so much won't end anything. At worst, they'll keep each other busy so they won't get in trouble anymore. I don't think you understand how my brother is. He's the worst of us. Gralgiran managed to hold the fear as an image of him, naked, hard, approaching to use him, turn him into his thing, surfaced. When he had enough control to type again, he changed the subject. How many siblings do you have? 3 brothers, 4 sisters. That's a lot. Is it? 6 to 9 is the range for most families who can afford it. I'm not sure how financial instability affects family size. Humans tend to have 2 or 3 kids at most. Don't you have 2 brothers and 1 sister? My family's slightly larger than most. I think my dad compensated for being an only child. Have you thought about writing them? I did. But what's the point? It isn't like whatever I say will reach them. It might. There are channel we can try. The Federation considers family important, just like we do. It's not about what Kelsirians or the Federation care about. That would be It's about what humans did to me. I don't think that's going to make them inclined to have anything of mine reach wherever it's going. It can't be each and every Earther who feels like that about you. Even among the Earthers in charge, there has to be one who cares more about what family means than whatever threat they feel you are. And even if it can't reach them, writing it will get how you feel out of your system. It's worked before. I'll think about it. Can we talk later? I have to get ready for my shift and then figure out what I'm doing tomorrow since it's a rest day for my team. Hang out with friends? I don't want to take them away from their family on the one day they have to dedicate to them. I'll figure something out. When his friend didn't reply, Jeremy put the tablet away and headed for the shower. Jeremy dropped on the bed out of exhaustion. When Xiliana Karan de Baron had warned him that being friendlier wouldn't change how he treated him during their shift, Jeremy had expected that to mean he wouldn't be treated better or worse. Today, The engineer, his supposedly friend, had run him ragged. He'd sent him to fix one problem after another behind the walls, like there was no one else available. 6 of the 14 systems he'd had to repair he hadn't even known about until he pulled up this information on them. Of course, because of the lack of standards in their component and because the technician didn't bother the engineer needlessly, Jeremy had had to take the damaged parts, scan them, figure out how they failed, then build the prints, build a print for them, and hope he'd done it correctly. He'd needed 3 tries with one of them, but at least access to the printers had come with the work he'd been assigned. He couldn't tell, he wouldn't tell Alexiana Karan de Baran that, ever, but it had been fun to have to think on his feet like that, to take something he couldn't plan for and have to fix it, or else. In this case, the or else wouldn't be anything worse than disappointing the engineer, but during that time, it was like he was in the middle of an emergency on Einstein. He couldn't waste time thinking about whatever problem he had. He needed to fix the mess the scientist had made of his reactor, or else. And like those times, this had left him pleasantly exhausted. Well, it had been pleasant in the glow of success. Now he was just exhausted and in need of a shower. The tablet buzzed, and he was tired enough to answer. He was tired enough he answered before checking who it was. Hello? Then he had to clamp down on the panic as not recognizing the name. Technician Jeremy Bradshaw, a woman said. He pushed through the programming, ordering him not to reply. It still caused him to hesitate. Yes? I am Berlandirano Caroti Rekfrem. I would like for you to meet with me tomorrow. Trap! Why? We will discuss that when we meet. She's one of his agent. She will turn you into his thing. He had trouble fighting the argument. I don't think. The location will be lightly populated. There will be witnesses to our meeting. You can bring one of your friends if you feel you should. I believe one of them is a hunter. They should be able to protect you if you feel threatened. I don't know. What? If he'd go? If he should bother Turk at Tarikna? What did this woman want? I leave the decision to you. She ended the call, and he stared at the time at the time and location that appeared on his tablet. What kind of ending was that? The decision was his. If it was his, then he wasn't going. He dropped the tablet on the bed and went to the shower. With a snarl, he grabbed the tablet, dripping water, and called Leah Tergrobar. He hadn't been able to stop thinking about the conversation, and he needed someone else's opinion. As soon as she answered, he laid out what happened. Do you want to go? She asked. Of course not. I don't know who she is. For all I know, she's planning on cutting me apart and feeding me to him. I don't think that's how he wants you. Yeah, well, it's how the fucking programming words it. And yes, I'm curious. What would some stranger would want with me? Of course I'm curious, but I'm also not stupid. I don't know who she is or what she wants. What can you know? Nothing. He caught his breath into silence. She's crew, or at least, he said, or someone related to the crew. I'm including hunters in the crew. What else? I don't think the captain would bring on anyone outright dangerous to the general population, but, he added, not needing the programming to prod him, he can't know everything about everyone who lives here. Someone with some form of deviance could have slipped through. That is true. How likely do you think someone like that, who poses a threat to the programming, the programming is telling you they are, could remain unnoticed? That was a good point. The ship was a sealed environment. It was nearly impossible to do something that affected others and not have it quickly noticed. She could be someone who just joined. Also true. She has left the decision in your hands. That means she won't be in a position to object if you decide not to go. But then I won't know what this is about. Also true. You suck as a psychologist, you know that? She chuckled. You called me at home. Sorry. Don't be. But even if we were in my office, you know I won't make the decision for you. You need to evaluate the situation. I can help you evaluate the risk, but you have to decide if they are worthwhile. I know, he whined, and if not for this fucking programming, I wouldn't be second guessing myself all the fucking time. I've thrown myself at reactors on the brink of blowing up because I'd worked out the probabilities I could defuse it. This is so much simpler than that, but it feels like the explosion of getting it wrong will destroy everything I know. Knowing that, what do you want to do? You so fucking suck! I'm told I'm quite good at it. I can't believe you went there. I smelled an opportunity. Yeah, well, don't be surprised if I call you tomorrow so you can talk me out of doing something stupid. He stopped as a man and a child walked out of his destination, the open door, letting him hear the sound of fighting. Bodies hitting the mat. The child and father both had damp fur, so he couldn't tell which one had been fighting. But what parent took their child to watch them fight? Well, it was just training for Kelsirians. He hadn't imagined a Kelsirian gym when she said it would be lightly occupied. He had no idea what he'd imagined. But it meant that if she tried something, the people there would be able to help him. So maybe it made sense as a way to make him feel more at ease. He entered, and as with the other places where physical activities happen on the ship, was immediately in the changing room. Men and women dressing and undressing, going and leaving, going and going to and leaving the showers, and he kept looking ahead. The programming was already loud about how each of them only needed a glance from him to decide he wanted to be used. The fact kids were in the same room did not make him feel any better. The other side was open and the fighting louder. Half the large room was occupied, and most of them were children, with adults instructing them. A few adults were fighting, and those were fast and seemed overly brutal to him for something they considered normal exercise. Technician Jeremy Bradshaw, a woman said, and he turned. I'm glad you decided to come. She only wore pants. Fabric spilled out of a seat. Actually, no. Of the seat. Of the seat she was vacating, which, you know, which he thought might be her vest. Okay, and this, which would be her vest. It's not like I'd find out what this is about otherwise. She was only slightly taller than him. Her fur pale cream that was almost white, going darker along her arms until it was dark brown at the fingers. The same dark brown around her blue eyes, short muzzle, and her ears. The 6 mats on either side of the one she stepped on weren't in use. It was good and bad. The lack of close crowd made him feel at ease, but it also gave her time to do something to him before anyone could reach them. Then she could flee. To where? She motioned for him to approach, and he stepped on her mat. At twice his height in diameter, he had twice his height, so that make it I I don't know why I defaulted to him using his body as a frame of reference, since they have actual measurements in this world. At nearly 3 meters in diameter, he had no idea if it meant it was large. So he asked, "What is this about?" Out of the corner of his eyes, children were pointing in their direction, but the adults setting them back to the fights. "Show me your hands." He narrowed his eyes, and she motioned for him to hurry. With a sigh, he raised them. She took one in hers, turned it, studied it, then repeated with the other. They might not work. She whispered. Before he could ask, she pulled something from behind her and presented it to him. Put those on. Those turned out to be a pair of gloves, supple material with hardened fingertips. The shape made him suspect that claws could extend. They were tight and the fingers not quite long enough. Tighten your hand, curl the fingers. He did so. She shook her head. You're going to need a different design. I'll have to see if there's one for anyone who suffered claw amputation. Until then, we'll start with close the hand style. She closed her hands and fists and raised them. Danger. No. He clamped down on the urge to run, reminding the programming predators chase when the prey ran, and it didn't mean he was in danger. He still backed to the end of the mat. I don't exercise this way. I have my weight machine. This isn't about exercising. Take them off, close your hands, and raise them like this. He didn't. If that's not what this is about, then why am I here? To be trained. Trained in what? Combat. What else? He took the gloves off and threw them at the seat with her vest. I don't fight. He turned away. You were taken by Earthers twice, she said, tone casual. He rounded on her. And what does fighting have to do with that? Do you think they're done trying to take you away from us? It's not like I plan on ever giving them the chance to try again. Do you think they'll wait for you to give them an opportunity? Or do you mean to never leave the ship again? It's not like I need to go anywhere else than here. What about when your friends go on the station? When they ask you to come with them because they want to enjoy your company, show you sights they believe you'll enjoy seeing, new experiences. I'm not going to be alone then. You weren't alone the last time. He closed his eyes and tried not to see her body. That's not fair. I've been asked by those who care about you to ensure it never happens again. That no matter how the Earthers try, plural, you will have the skills needed to stop them. That you won't have to rely on others to keep you safe. That you won't be a reason they are injured when the Earthers try to take you again. He kept from thinking of who was included in those who cared. Now, close your hands and raise them as I have. He looked at his hand, made fist, and felt ridiculous. I'm not a fighter. No, you are a warrior, and I intend to give you the skills needed to ensure anyone who goes to war with you regrets it. I told Hardwin, raise your hands. He raised them. He couldn't put his friend at risk needlessly. He at least had to have fought back as best as he could. Good. She extended her left arm, then brought it to her. That is the first motion. She did it again. Copy it. This was a waste of time. But until she saw that, he'd stick with it. And that concludes chapter 96 of The Captain's Heart. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available on Ream Story. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.